Hello friends, we are going to start with ischemic heart diseases. Now what is IHD? What do we mean by ischemic heart disease? By definition, it's slowly progressive insufficiency of coronary circulation as a result of atherosclerosis of the large epicardial coronary arteries. Let us understand this figure first. Whenever we do activity, there is a balance between the oxygen supply from the heart and our routine activity. But in case of increased activity, our oxygen supply from the heart is increased to restore the balance. This balance should always be equal. But in case, what happens if this oxygen supply does not meet with the normal activity? There will be feeling of pain, and due to that the person will have fatigueness and there will be decreased activity. Then only the balance will be restored. But by chance, if this oxygen supply gets lesser and lesser, there is decreased oxygen supply and it does not meet with the demand, with the basic needs, there will be myocardial ischemia. So that is resulting in imbalance between oxygen supply and demand of the myocardium. The first alarming symptom complex is known as angina pectoris. If it is not treated, it may lead to myocardial ischemia or myocardial infarction, and ultimately it may lead to cardiac failure on long run. So manifestation of IHD are silent ischemia. Initially the person gets pain and there is decreased activity, that is asymptomatic, or we can call it silent ischemia. Angina pectoris, acute coronary syndrome, that is characterized by unstable angina, acute myocardial infarction, which may be of two types, non-ST segment elevation MI and ST segment elevation MI, chronic heart failure or congestive heart failure, and sudden cardiac death. In this lecture series, or what is more important for you as second MBBS students, is angina pectoris and myocardial infarction. So the learning objective of this series will be to state and classify clinical manifestations of IHD, to be aware about physiology of coronary circulation and factors influencing it, to classify and describe clinical types of angina, to describe salient aspects of anti-angina drugs, to discuss the types and role of non-pharmacological measures and other cytoprotective agents, and to outline the medical management of various types of IHD. Now let's recap. We all know coronary arteries are functionally end arteries. They don't have collaterals in initial phase. Oxygen demand of cardiac muscle is huge even during rest. And in opposed to that, O2 saturation or oxygen saturation in coronary sinus is only 30%, unlike skeletal muscle where there is 60 to 70%. So during exercise, cardiac muscles demand can be met only by more blood flow. The heart receives only 4% of the cardiac output. Myocardial oxygen consumption is determined by preload, afterload and heart rate. When there is insufficient oxygen supply, maybe due to rise in ventricular pressure or tension or heart rate or heart size, myocardial ischemia occurs. There will be fall in partial pressure of oxygen in coronaries, leading to production of lactic acid, adenosine and prostacyclin. These are all vasodilators, and this vasodilatation is as a compensatory mechanism. Vascular tone is balanced by endothelial cell by maintaining balance between nitric oxide, that is vasodilator, or it is also known as endothelium derived relaxing factor, versus thromboxane A2. Now, what is angina pectoris? Angina pectoris is imbalance between coronary blood flow and oxygen consumption by myocardium. Coronary blood flow may be decreased due to atherosclerosis or vasospasm, and oxygen consumption of myocardium may increase with the increase in heart size, heart rate, blood pressure, and contractility. Injury is to strangulate, and pectus means the chest region. This word is derived from the Latin word, that is because of the characteristic feature of strangulating pain in the pectoral region or chest region, that is angina pectoris. Now the target of management will be physiology of coronary circulation. We know the physiology, how it can be increased, coronary circulation can be increased. Factors governing myocardial metabolism, mechanism regulation of genesis, mechanism regulation the genesis and appreciation of pain. Now when blood flow doesn't match with the oxygen demand, the person will have following symptoms, like there will be sudden onset of tightness and pain in the chest. That pain may often radiates to neck, jaws, arm, back. These are the regions where that pain can be felt, or even teeth, associated with profuse sweating and vomiting. If we see the types of angina, types of angina can be stable angina, that is known as effort angina, that may be triggered by some physical or mental exertion or some meal, and that may resolve with the rest or nitrates. Second is unstable angina, new onset or worsening of angina that is unpredictable. Here you can predict with the physical exercise and mental exertion, anginal patient may get pain, so he can take prophylactic measures. Whereas when he gets unstable angina, it is totally unpredictable, and rest and medicines do not resolve the pain, and that is called as acute coronary syndrome that may lead to MI. In opposed to stable and unstable, there is vasospastic angina, also known as variants or Prinzmetal's angina, that occurs spontaneously, often at rest. During nights, patient gets up or wakes up with a severe tightening of chest and profuse sweating. That is more common, it is said that it's more common in females and in males in smokers. That may respond to nitrates, but calcium channel blockers can be more helpful. Very minute type of angina is microvascular angina, angina due to coronary microvascular dysfunction. So if we look to the manifestations of ECG, in case of normal person, this is P wave. It is PQRST. P wave followed by QRS complex and T wave. This is the normal pattern of ECG. Whereas in case of myocardial ischemia or angina, there is ST depression. This is ST depression. QRS complex will be inversed, right? So that is the characteristic sign of angina in ECG. Now targets of management can be dilating the coronaries and reducing the preload or afterload, or in other words reducing the work of the heart. So targets of management, who can reduce afterload, that is arteriolar dilators, who can reduce the afterload by dilating aorta and arteries, calcium channel blockers, beta blockers and nitrates. Second target, who can reduce the preload by dilating venules and reducing the preload. So nitrates can be mixed dilators, venous dilator as well as arteriolar dilator. Then if we have to give rest to the heart, so negative inotropic action drugs are calcium channel blockers and beta blockers and coronary dilators, direct helpers. They are CCBs and nitrates. So these can be considered as the targets of management of IHD and angina. right? So preferably organic nitrates, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, potassium channel openers. These are all mixed dilators. And other cytoprotective agents like trimetazidine, ranolazine, ivabradine, and antiplatelets to prevent further aggregation of platelets. So these drugs can be considered as classification of helpful drugs in angina and IHD. Now let us see first the main hero. In this lecture, we will be considering the physiology and pharmacology of organic nitrates. Organic nitrates usefulness was identified in way back in 1879, and first agent was nitroglycerine. If we look to the pharmacological basis, friends, this can be asked many times in short notes or in viva. What is the mechanism of action? What is the pharmacological basis of nitrates? Nitrates can be considered as exogenous NO donor. NO is nitric oxide, and we know that nitric oxide is endothelium derived relaxing factor. Whenever there is vasospasm, the body will try to compensate by releasing nitric oxide from the endothelium, and that will lead to vasodilatation. So nitrates can be considered as exogenous NO donor. We are donating or we are giving nitric oxide from outside. So that nitric oxide, nitrates will convert into nitric oxide, and that nitric oxide will activate guanylyl cyclase. We can consider guanylyl cyclase as nitric oxide receptor. This nitric oxide which is released or which is converted from nitrates will attach and activate guanylyl cyclase that will convert GTP into cyclic GMP. So more and more GTP will get converted to cyclic GMP, and we know that cyclic GMP is having direct relaxant action on vascular smooth muscle. So we can say nitrates can dilate venules or veins as well as arteries. All blood vessels can be dilated. If we look to the pharmacological actions, more predominant action is seen on cardiovascular system. It will relax systemic venous as well as arteriolar bed. So main action, main target is on hemodynamic circulation. It will produce, nitrates will produce venodilatation, so peripheral pooling of blood and reduction in venous return. So ultimately it will reduce preload, right? There will be reduction in end diastolic left ventricular pressure. Also in larger arteries will have arteriolar dilatation. So that will be helpful in reducing afterload also. So that will reduce the resistance of left ventricular ejaculation. The blood has to pump against less resistance. So heart has to pump against less resistance. So there will be decreased left ventricular workload and oxygen demand decreases. This is the pharmacological action of nitrates. Mind well friends, sublingual nitroglycerine is predominantly a venodilator. So it will decrease the ventricular preload. It is capable of reducing preload. Initially, amyl nitrate was given as inhalation. Amyl nitrate is faster acting. There will be rapid arteriolar dilatation as well. So that will decrease afterload. But there will be rapid fall in blood pressure, and there will be compensatory rise in sympathetic activity. That will lead to vasocontraction, and that will lead to more oxygen demand. That is not favorable for us. So amyl nitrate nowadays by inhalatory route is not preferred, and it is not available also in market. Friends, you you take a note of this. Amyl nitrates cannot be used nowadays because it is not helpful. What happens in coronary circulation? In normal person, there will be transient decrease in coronary resistance and increased total coronary blood flow. But there will be marked improvement or marked benefit will be seen in patients of angina. In patients of angina, it will dilate the large epicardial coronary arteries without affecting the resistance of arterioles. There will be dilatation of collateral vessels. In case it is a long-standing disease and the coronaries have developed collaterals, that will cause redistribution of coronary blood flow along collaterals and from epicardial to the endocardial region with improved perfusion of ischemic subendocardial areas. Even below the ischemic zone, subendocardial areas will also get perfused. Chronic administration promotes the development of interarterial anastomosis within the myocardium. So the alternative routes will also be enhanced. What happens in angina pectoris? Nitrates help most of the patients by increasing their exercise tolerance without increasing angina index. Now you will feel what is angina index. Angina index is calculated by heart rate into systolic blood pressure. This can be asked in Viva. How can we derive angina index? Oxygen consumption of heart by submaximal exercise levels is reduced and thus they can extend the duration of activity. What is the effect seen on other than cardiac vessels? Pulmonary vessels also, there will be fall in pulmonary pressure, there will be vasodilatation which is responsible for the side effects like cranial vasodilatation will lead to headache. On skin blood vessels, the person will have flushing. Meningeal vessels, if they are dilated, patient will have throbbing headache. Other smooth muscles will also get relaxed like gallbladder, bile duct, bronchi, GIT, uterus, but their action or their effect is minimal. IV nitroglycerin dissolved in 500 ml of 5% dextrose or normal saline. That will be relieve pain immediately. That is useful for refractory chest pain of MI or variants angina and acute LVF. Other preparations of nitrates are isosorbide dinitrate, but it has got high first pass metabolism. So we have to give 5 milligram tablet orally has got no value. It will get metabolized to mononitrate immediately. So if at all we have to give isosorbide dinitrate, we have to give higher dose 10 milligram sublingually. That can be given for acute attack. Buccal spray is also available 1.25 milligram. That will provide immediate relief in acute attack. Otherwise 10, 20, 40 milligram tablets, SR tablets, they all can be used for prophylaxis. Isosorbide mononitrate does not have first pass metabolism. So 10 to 20 milligram tablets are available. That also can be given orally for prophylaxis. Pentaerythritol tetranitrate also can be given thrice or twice a day for prophylaxis. So these are other preparations of nitrates in the market. Now let us see the therapeutic uses. All varieties of angina pectoris as described can be useful for immediate relief, can be useful for prophylaxis. So, and in the early onset of pain of MI, it may give temporary relief till patient is transferred to hospital. For paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea due to LVF, we can give nitroglycerin as prophylaxis. In case of acute LVF, IV nitroglycerin as described 5% dissolved in 500 ml of 5% dextrose or normal saline will have very beneficial effect as it is a venodilator. It will decrease the peripheral, preload and it will cause peripheral pulling. So left ventricular pressure also will be decreased. In case of CHF, chronic heart failure, organic nitrates are useful as long-term prophylaxis in case of CHF due to IST. In case of acute cyanide poisoning, IV sodium nitrite is given. The mechanism of action is IV sodium nitrite will convert hemoglobin to methemoglobin, and that will attach with cyanide ions and will cause cyanomethemoglobin. This cyanomethemoglobin is non-toxic and it will be excreted in urine. Other uses of nitrates as smooth muscle relaxant in case of achalasia cardia and acute anal fissure. These are minor uses, but major use is for angina, LVF, acute LVF and acute cyanide poisoning. Friends, nitrates are not free from adverse effects. Of course, headache is common but can be overcome by spitting the tablet which is kept beneath the tongue sublingually. When the pain of angina is relieved, educate the patient to spit out the remaining tablet to avoid headache. Or if the patient gets headache, we have paracetamol available. So ask the patient to take paracetamol. Hypotension and syncope. Actually, it is a transient episode which may be characterized by giddiness, weakness, vomiting, cold extremities, involuntary passage of urine and fishes. Especially this is seen with patients who are already on antihypertensive therapy or who are taking other vasodilators like sildenafil or even alcohol. And when patient has consumed alcohol or taken sildenafil and goes for gym activity or he is in upright position, at that time patient will have severe hypotension and syncope. The treatment of such patients, if you are in gym and you find any patient who may be on antihypertensive therapy and doing vigorous exercise and you see a patient getting down, suddenly collapsing, immediately give that patient head low position to enhance the venous return. Tolerance develops to all nitrates when patient is exposed for all 24 hours. So better to avoid by omitting night doses for long-term prophylaxis, long-term preparations. It is kept reserved for acute attack. Tolerance is rare with sublingual preparation and especially when it is given SOS. Abrupt withdrawal of nitrates with chronic administration may precipitate severe angina. This is known as Monday syndrome. Those patients, those workers who are working in pharmaceutical industries, who are dealing with preparation of nitrates, those patients are knowingly, unknowingly getting exposed to nitrates, right? That is, they are having their continuous exposure to nitrates, and suddenly on Saturday, Sunday, when they get off, on Monday they will have anginal attack. That is known as Monday syndrome. Friends, this is the end of part 1. We have discussed the pathophysiology and enlisted the types of IHD. We have already classified the anti-angina drugs. We have seen the salient aspects of nitrates. Now in part 2, we will discuss other groups used in angina. We will outline the management of IHD, treatment of angina and MI with brief discussion on peripheral vascular disorders. Thank you. Stay safe, stay home. Thank you.